Let's kick things off this morning. Mike Schnitka, behind me here, this gentleman is going to blow your mind with some of his stories. He's talked about grit, talked about tenacity, talked about being scrappy. Mike embodies all those things, and I'm not going to steal his thunder, but he's got some great stories for you. He is a world record holder, and he also happens to be a sales coach. So without further ado, let's give a Zywave welcome to Mike Schnitka.
Good morning, everyone. How's the volume? Check. Good. Very good. Good morning. Good morning. You probably saw the canoe. Brought that in. It's always fun for local talks that I do that I can haul that in. Funny, because when I came in the door, Katie passed me on the highway coming here. She looked at the canoe and she said to herself, "That might be the guy that's coming this morning." So she passed me and I saw a Porsche, so I said, "Was that you in the Porsche?" And she said, "No." But that is a Kevlar racing canoe. I have to assume everybody here has probably been in a canoe at one time in their life. Paddle. This is about a $3,500 racing canoe. It's 18.5 feet long. Stripped, weighs about 29 pounds. You can pick it up as one-handed run. It weighs that light. So for those of you that went through canoeing with big aluminum battle tanks, we call those the 80, 90 pounders. This is just a light speed ahead. So I wanted to get into the title of the book that I wrote, Escaping the Velvet Rut. No, it doesn't have to do with velvet on a deer antler or something. It goes back to when I was a child growing up. My father has his own insurance agency, and he would regale us, the family, stories at dinner on what it was like being on the road for sales. And he would tell us how he could sit in front of a client, potential client, tell him his products, what it is, what it does, how great it would be. And the person would say, "Oh, I love that." And he would say, "Great, when would you like to start?" And they would say, "That's okay." So my father coined that phrase to me growing up as a kid of the velvet rut. There was an area that they were very comfortable in, but they wouldn't change. So my father basically said to me, "I don't sell insurance products to financials, I sell change." And people, as you know, fight to change. And for you sales guys and gals on the road, that is the biggest obstacle. They might look you in the eye and say, "I love this product, I'm ready to go." And you say, "When would you like to start?" It's a good closing question, and they go, "That's okay." So my father said right from the get-go, don't ever get in the velvet rut in your life. Just whatever you do, fight that comfortable thing. The velvet rut can be your job, might be a relationship you're in, car you drive, could be the shoes you're wearing today. Super uncomfortable, but you paid a lot of money, you'll never get rid of them. You'll just keep wearing those and be uncomfortable. So I'm here today to tell you some stories about me staying out of the velvet rut. I've been a pallbearer 13 times in my life. I don't know if anybody else has ever had the honor of doing that. But it's an amazing thing to carry that person to their ultimate demise. Whenever I'm at a funeral, I always look at the person up there in the coffin, the casket. I always wonder if I could give that person one more day. Bring him back to life, give him one more day. Do you think that person would go back to work and say, "Good, I get to finish my quarterly reports I was working on"? Or do you think that person would say, "I'm going to take a red eye, I'm going to go to Paris, I'm going to see the Eiffel Tower at sunrise"? It's just amazing how many people will grind through life and never do anything other than work. I read an article not too long ago. It said 30% of the U.S. population won't reach age 65. So for training purposes, let's make it 33%. So I want everybody in the room, count yourself as one. Look at the person next to you, that's two. And then look at that third person. That person is going to die before retirement. Now, conversely, that third guy just went 1, 2, and he pointed at you. So there's a balance. So unless you're having some fun along the way, life is kind of should have bucket lists. You should try to go after some things. And a phrase that my father said right from the beginning, I don't know if he came up with it, but when you were a kid, you always think your father came up with everything. He said to me, tomorrow is promised to no one. And I'm sure it's been around forever. But he always beat that into me, is that there is no guarantees you're even going to get home today. So if you're not out there having some fun along the way, you should. Let's start the story. Let's go. Oh, it worked. Great. First time doing this fancy schmancy stuff. I'm right there. I graduated high school in 1981. In the fall of '82, one of my best friends from high school invited me up north to his family's cabin up at the very top of Wisconsin to go deer hunting, just him and I. Tiny little cabin. I said, great, let's go. So I go up there with Bill. We get up there, and opening day deer hunting, it was raining and cold, it was rotten, we didn't want to be in the woods. So of course, when you're 19 and you're thirsty, you go to the bars. So we hit all the bars around where we were up at Land Lakes, if you guys know where that is. And we finally were working our way back to the cabin, brought a couple of cases of beer. We decided to stop at a wayside to drink some beer and listen to the radio, because the radio in the cabin was terrible. So we parked in front of this sign, and I just took that picture a few months ago, went back up, was up in the area. It's very hard to read, but I'll just tell you what it says. It's basically the Wisconsin River starts here and flows 300 miles to the Mississippi. So in the condition that I was in, inebriated, I said to Bill, we should do that Huck Finn thing. Let's see if we can't canoe from here all the way to the Mississippi. And he said, okay. So we started planning for it all winter. Bill said, hey, our family has a big aluminum canoe, we can use that. Great. And I remember standing there in front of the canoe for the first time. This will tell you how little I knew. I'm looking at it like that one, and I said to Bill, I said, where's the front? He goes, I think this seat. I said, what do you want? He says, I don't know. I said, okay, I'll take the front. And that's where it's always been. I've always been a bow man. Bill's been a stern man. And each person has a particular job when you get into racing canoes. I'll get into that in a bit. So I double dog dare basically Bill to do the Wisconsin River. And his cabin is only about a half a mile from that lake, Lake Vudazera. So in the spring, the following spring, we're getting ready, we're in college. Here's the picture of actually when we met to do this. We commandeered Bill's mother. She was a great seamstress. We made a cover for the canoe. And we packed way too much gear. We didn't know what we were up against. We're talking total rookie stuff. We tried to find river maps, went to the library, no river maps, so we just grabbed a state map to use for driving. What did we know? Drove up, dropped the stuff off by the dam where the river starts. Bill dropped off the car, walked back, we just started paddling. We found out that the Wisconsin River is one of the hardest working rivers in the world for its distance. There are so many paper mills and power electric dams. You can't believe them. There's 26 or 27, just as much as Mississippi. What that means is you have to portage. And when you pack too much stuff like we did, that's a lot of work. We had to take basically 8 trips to portage around a dam. So you walk with the canoe, come back, bring some gear, come back. It was 4 trips, but 8 laps. And on the Wisconsin River, you can literally paddle 10 miles and come around the curve and there's another dam. It got to be ridiculous, the amount of energy and things, and we joked how much muscles we were going to have at the end of the trip. So we weren't in a hurry. Again, we have no time limit. We're on summer break for college. Here's us entering the Dells. See that paddle in my hand? That's the one there on the canoe. And afterwards, I hope you go over there and feel how heavy that is, because the one right next to it is a racing paddle. I want you to feel the difference. So here is a overhang in the Dells, just below the Dells. We actually camped there one night, not in a hurry. I think we spent 3 nights in Stevens Point on an island because we stopped one night, went in and found a bunch of bars and a bunch of girls because it's a college town. For some reason, we stayed there 3 nights. We just kept going in and cheap quarter beers and things. So we weren't in a hurry. So about a day before the end, we found a gas station with a payphone. No mobile phones in '83. Called my parents. They were going to be in our sag wagon to come pick us up. And my dad took this picture. We got to the end. This is just before it enters into the Mississippi River. On the way back in the car, my dad's driving. I'm behind my dad. I'm looking at my mom. I remember her leaning over and giving me an article that was from the journal. It says, 2 guys set the state record paddling the Wisconsin River. And it just happened while we were out on the river. We never saw them. We were probably sleeping in. We were probably a little hungover. But 2 guys set the record at a little over 8 days. So I looked at Bill in the car on the way back, literally an hour after this picture was taken, and I said, 8 days, that's not that good. We coasted most of the way and did it in 18. And I said, Bill, would you like to go after the record? He says, no. So I had to double dog dare him. He says, all right. He says, but we can't do it in that aluminum canoe. And I said, well, maybe I can find a racing canoe or something. So we get back, and afterwards I sat down with my father, and he said, well, yeah, let's try to see if you can't borrow a racing canoe. So I went to the library, no internet, got a book on racing canoe companies, found the closest one, which was just north of La Crosse in Winona, Minnesota, and that's a Winona racing canoe. And my father, who was in sales, of course, we put together a script that I memorized. Hi, my name is Mike Schnitzka. I'm here to try to set a world record. Had it all canned. I remember making that phone call. The receptionist answered the phone. I said, can I talk to the president? Absolutely, hold on. I mean, he was on the phone. And my dad's sitting there, and he's like, okay. I gave him my spiel, and I said, would it be okay if I borrowed a racing canoe? He goes, absolutely. He couldn't believe he said yes. He says, we don't deliver, so you're going to have to come pick it up. So shortly after that, Bill and I drove all the way up to Winona and back with a very expensive racing canoe. We are now going to go back and try to set the record on the Wisconsin River. We know where all the portages are, we know how long they are, we know what not to bring for gear, we know what we will need. So we get this racing canoe, and we start building a new tarp. There's Bill in the canoe, and there's Bill's mom, who's a great seamstress. There she's making the pattern for the skirt. We basically make it look like a kayak. It doesn't make the canoe faster, it just keeps wind and waves and water and stuff out of it. It's more for safety. Here's the bow of the canoe. I wish I had my pointer. There's too many screens. You can see a little radio on the left. Bill is an electrician, so he wired up the canoe that we each could plug in a headset and listen to the same radio station at the same time to kill boredom. In the nose there you can see a motorcycle battery, and we got a Casey headlight. Because we knew we were going to be paddling at night. To try to set a time record, you're going to have to really be out there a long time. So there's the canoe without the skirts on, with the headlight. So now we're up at the top of the state, we're all ready to go. Here's our borrowed fancy schmancy racing canoe. That's Bill wanted a picture with the skirt up, because we're going to probably bring jackets over that. And we push off. So all we're bringing is tent, sleeping bags, dried food, big can of water, big 8-gallon clear thing of water, and that's it, and that canoe. Here's one of the portages. This is some rapids, like right after a dam. Bill took a picture of at night. I had shirts made up. Thought we looked kind of professional. By the way, if you want to get into canoe racing for shaving cream ads and commercials, don't do it. It is the most zero fan-based sport in the world. It's just you and your buddy, and that's it, out paddling. So here is our typical stop. We would paddle until we were getting pretty tired. Bill would spin the canoe around. By the way, being an electrician, it was really neat. He wired up a foot switch all the way back to him. That when we had that tarp on, instead of stopping paddling and him reaching under trying to find the light switch, he could just hit it with his foot and turn that headlight on. And Bill, being an electrician, of course, he figured out how the wattage of the battery and the draw on the light, and we tested it. We could get 5 hours of light out of that motorcycle battery, and that was it. And we didn't have any replacements. This is an unsupported race. So when we would hit shore, we would pull the canoe up. I would quick get that tent out. I'd set up the sleeping bags. I'd get the canoe ready. While I'm doing that, Bill is setting up his little burner to boil water, to eat dried foods. Quick wolf down a meal. get in, sleep for 3 hours, wake up, reverse it. My job, take the tent down, get the sleeping bags rolled up, put them in a big day pack, which is a huge backpack. Bill will boil some water, eat some food, load up the canoe, go. If you've ever been outside all day, away from the city, during a full moon, and as the light goes down and the rods and the cones in your eyes really open up, the moon is surprisingly bright, isn't it? I mean, you can read a newspaper. So we knew that if we planned this race around a full moon, you'd be able to really see a lot and not have to use that headlight. And we did. It was fantastic. So we were starting to get a little smarter on things. We did some research on when is the water really good on the Wisconsin River, but not too much. Then it's dangerous. Then you can die. So you look at all the charts and things that are kept from the DNR and things. So we picked a time during a full moon to do everything we could to help. We remembered the gas station where the payphone was, because my parents were again going to come pick us up. This time, instead of saying, pick us up tomorrow, I remember when we got to that gas station, we had calculated, I said to my parents, see you in 7 hours. We were flying. So when we got to that same parking lot to stop the clock, we had set a new record at 6 days and 18 hours. Not bad. So this is only our second time doing this. Thank you. Here's where the fun begins. During that time, Bill and I are getting into canoe racing. There's weekend races all over, and we're really getting into the sport, getting more efficient with paddling and all that stuff. I subscribed to Canoe News, and right after we got done, I got this in the mail. The Mississippi River world record set by these two people, husband and wife, 2,348 miles in 23 days. And I remember calling Bill. Bill! And I won't tell you what he said, a lot of swear words in there. But he said no. And I said, I double dog dare you. He says, no. So, just kind of put it off on the shelf for a while. At that time, I don't know if you guys are probably not old enough to remember this, some of you are, the economy wasn't that good about that time in the 80s. So I decided to join the Army. Back then, you could sign up for 2, 3, or 4 years. There was nothing military going on in the world. So my recruiter said, sign up for 2 years. If you like it, you can re-up and get bonuses. If not, you can get out. Cool. So I went into counterintelligence, thought I might do some spy stuff and NSA stuff. Found out counterintelligence is kind of boring, especially at that time. It's more secretarial than anything. Wasn't my shtick, so after 2 years I got out. Came home and said to my father, I want to work for you now, for his insurance agency. It was just him, and he called on financials. He says, okay, I'm going to send you back to basic training. And he said, I want you to go work for a finance company for a couple of years. You have to learn how to lend and collect and chase and repo and do all those things. So there I was, working at a finance company, and I'm getting that itch again of getting in that Velvet Rut, going to the office every day, just looking at loans and being tied to the desk. So I took it upon myself to try to find a sponsor to maybe go after the Mississippi, and I didn't tell Bill. And I found one. So I had a meeting with, many meetings with different people, but Budget Rent-A-Car in Milwaukee decided to come on board and provide us a van and pay for our gas. So I remember the phone call I gave to Bill. I said, Bill, I found a sponsor for Mississippi. So it took a little while to convince him to do it, but he said yes. So in '87, we started training to do it in 1989. So the Mississippi River starts way up there. The first beginning looks like a big question mark. Wisconsin River is 430 miles. It's 430 miles just to get to Minneapolis. So Bill and I knew once we hit Minneapolis, we have no idea what's going to happen after that physically. So we went up. This was 88. And by the way, I love this sign. Remember that first sign that said the river was 300 miles? By the way, the Wisconsin River is 430. That sign wasn't even close. I think if the sign said 430, we wouldn't have done it. But it said 300. Mississippi's 2,348 miles. This sign says 2,552. So I don't know who makes these signs. They have no idea what they're talking about. It's kind of confusing. So behind me, Bill and I, that's Lake Itasca. that's where the Mississippi starts coming out of that lake, and you can actually walk across those rocks and say you walked across the Mississippi. So Bill and I went up the summer before. We wanted to check out the first 300 miles or so. What are we up against? Everybody knows what the Mississippi looks like down below, big waters, and that's just paddling. It's the beginning where problems can come up. You have to check out things. Maps and pictures don't do it justice. You have to look at dams and portages and where could there possibly be a problem. So I commandeered 2 of my buddies to be our support crew. We're going to be gone basically a month. So that's Bill on the right, me, Rod, Mike up there by the door, and Buster the dog. He didn't come along. He was just there for the picture. This was the day that we left in late April of '89. So off we go. Now we're up at Lake Itasca. This is the night before. See those stands on the canoe? Those are the same stands right there. Bill, being an electrician, phenomenal. Lower left in that picture, you see that blue generator. The guys would pull it out, hook it up to the van, fire it up. You'd have lights, a microwave on the inside. So here is the start that morning. The rocks are right behind us, and we had the DNR warden from the Lake Itasca State Park take that picture. That was it. That was all that was there to verify we started at that time. And here we go. Now, for those of you that wonder, what does it take to put on a world record race? In canoeing, at least, this might transition to other sports. Here it is. Any mathematicians out there? If you can solve that, you can set a world record. Here we go. Ready to solve it? First section, food and diet. What are you going to eat on the race? How are you dieting now to get ready for the race? Divided by training to the 3rd power. Whatever training you think you need to do, triple it. Because you're going to be paddling 21 hours a day for 23 days. So canoeing by itself won't get you ready for a canoe race. Swim, bike, run, free weights, regular weights. Anything you can imagine, you have to get your body ready to just get beaten up if you can't believe. Next section, travel plus equipment. The travel is, of course, we got the van. What about all the other things involved in the travel? Equipment. We need canoeing equipment. We also need spares. What if things break? Triplicate everything. It's all the planning that goes involved, sitting there and just... The 3-ring binder that we had in the van when we left was about that thick. In case something happened, look up a solution for that. We had triplicate solutions for everything. We are not stopping for any reason. And if after the 3rd attempt something doesn't work, you have bigger problems. So travel plus equipment minus cash to the 10th power, whatever you think you're going to spend, 10 times more. Every time you turn around, you're buying something for the race and the equipment and that. Sponsors, of all the sponsors I've had, I've never gotten cash. They always give you stuff. But stuff helps, so you don't have to buy stuff. But I never got money. Next section, research plus maps and media. You gotta research the river. You gotta get maps for the river, detailed maps where you can check things out and mark off danger areas and things. Media. Budget Reddicar said to me, "You're in charge of media, we're too busy." No internet. Had to go to the library, get a book on all the TV stations along the river, all the radio stations along the river, all the newspapers along the river. Go home on a typewriter and type out letters to each one, stamps, mail it to them, and hopefully they mail back. Basically the letter said, when we come in your town, our support group, can they call you if you'd like to cover us? We got a lot of media coverage as we went down. They said, yeah, we'll cover you. Unknown. This is the one that kept me up at night. Nightmares. No matter how much you can plan for something, there's always the unknown. What if we get up there and I step out of the car and put my hand out and break my wrist? Race is done. What if something breaks in the vehicle? How do I get a van from Budget Reddicar? I mean, there's so many unknowns. That's the part that just gray hairs. To get to the equal sign, that's 95% of the effort. 5% is the paddling. That's how much effort it takes to just pull it off, to just get to the start line. So here we are at the start. That's the van. Bill built a nice storage unit on the left, the blue thing is the generator. Now we're off. Countless portages like this in the first 430 miles. Every time you come around the curve, there's some old dam or beaver fall or something. It's still pretty wild in northern Minnesota. In the beginning, we saw our support crew all the time, and we had the luxury of occasionally getting warm meals. I remember this picture because a huge snow squall had just come through. Remember, we're way up north near Bemidji in Minnesota on May 3rd. There's still snow on the ground, lakes are still frozen, but the river's open. The coldest night we had was about 10 degrees paddling. I'm going to tell you right now, once the race started, I never got out of that canoe for 23 days. Not once. Slept in it, ate in it, did everything. I brought this along too. This is a world famous bedpan. If anybody wants to look at that, this was, I'll pass that along to you. You can take a look at that. I always bring that along. That's always the fun thing. If you wondered where we did our facilities, that was it. We sleep in the canoe. That's me. The way it would work is we're out in the water. I can turn around in the canoe on my knees, crawl back, open the sleep flap, wiggle out, wiggle down, get in the canoe, get in the sleeping bag. My head would be, if you look at that canoe, right about where it says support crew, that's about where my head is, and my feet are underneath my front seat. And you grab that and you pull yourself in. And when you pull that cover over you, that cover is about 4 inches above your nose. So if you're claustrophobic, too bad. But you're so tired, it doesn't matter. Bill said the fastest I fell asleep was about 5 seconds. He says, I laid down, pulled the sleep flap down, got centered in the canoe. He says, are you ready? He says, I was out, like that. So here's us entering a lock and dam. There's 27 locks and dams. This is a rare set of photos. I love this because I don't have any pictures of Bill going under to sleep, because typically we would be out on the river, he'd wake me up, we would find some sandbar, some rock, some piece of log. I would get out, he would get in under, I would jump in the back seat for about 3 hours, wake him up, switch seats, and then we're together for 18 hours. So here's a series of photos of Bill actually going under. These are the only ones I have since 1983. That's Rod and I going over some maps. So here are the lock and dams. They start in Minneapolis, they end in St. Louis. Everybody says it's got to be easy paddling downriver. How tough is that? There's almost no current until St. Louis. These are all pools of water that are held back by the lock and dams to be used for power. The only time it's really open is flood stage. You got to get that water out of there. Otherwise, the dams are shut and there's basically no movement. So if you're out on the water north of St. Louis, and if you have any headwind, if you've ever been on the water, you know the top 6 inches in wind is coming, that whole top 6 inches will move. And if you've ever been canoe racing, it's always in your face. So basically for the first half of the trip, it always feels like you're paddling upstream. The wind is always in your face. Top 6 inches is actually moving upstream. Where does it end? That is New Orleans in the center. Way down lower right is called the Head of Passes. That's where it ends. That's 100 miles after New Orleans is where the navigational charts start. I don't know if you can see it. You can see it, number 9. So 9 miles to go. This is what it looks like about the last 100 miles. There's really no land. It's just all those bayous and swamps. But you can kind of see how low that canoe is to the water. If you get about a 1-foot wave, 12 inches, I mean, it's starting to come over the top, and that's why we have the tarp, otherwise you'd fill the canoe up. The last 2 days, big oil tankers, they go all the way up to Baton Rouge to fill up with oil. I gotta tell you, when you're used to barges is one thing, but when you come around a curve and you see an ocean freighter in the Mississippi, it's startling, the waves they create. That is the finish. No more numbers. Our time was 23 days, 9 hours, 51 minutes. And we beat the existing world record by 29 minutes. I'll say that one more time, 29 minutes. Around Baton Rouge, our support group, we had a communication system in the canoe. We could talk to the van. And to get in the Guinness Book, you have to keep a lot of records to hand in. And Baton Rouge, we had 200 miles to go. Our support crew got on the horn and said, you guys aren't going to make it. And we were startled. And they said, at your current speed that you've been doing and the distance left, you are not going to make it. And after training for 2 years and coming all this way and paddling that hard, that was not an option. So Bill and I took everything out of that canoe. Food, water, we had very little water in there, extra paddles, life preservers, took the battery out, took the communication radio out, emptied it. I don't know, that might have been 20 pounds of stuff maybe. We didn't care, we wanted it as light. And we went 48 hours, no sleep, literally as fast as we could paddle. When we do canoe races around here, they're like 3-hour races, 21 miles, you go 7 miles an hour, and that's humping it. And you're really pulling hard. We did that for 48 hours. That was our average speed. That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, that last 2 days. So when we started the trip, we went 48 hours, no sleep, 3 hours a day, and then 48, no sleep. And we didn't know what our time was until we touched that marker. And the guys had rented a little shrimp boat, tiny little thing, just a little longer than a canoe, and I heard them yell out, "You beat it." That was just phenomenal. So here we are back in Milwaukee, again, huge crowds. Everybody's there to greet us. We're in the Guinness Book of Records. I have books afterwards you can grab. Huge story about getting that certificate. All I'll tell you is, Guinness said we cheated and didn't give us the certificate, and I convinced them to do it. And you got to read that story, it's very interesting. So that's 1989. We come back. That was a again 2-year prep. Huge endeavor. You have your day job, and then 2 or 3 hours a day, you're either working out or working on equipment, getting ready for this trip for 2 years. That's a lot. It's a world you live in, and you can't get out of if you want to do this. So we're a little burned out. That's fine. Bill and I get back into working and driving in the Velvet Rut. When we hear 2 Illinois-lets beat our Wisconsin River record. And for those of you out of towners that don't know what that is, ask some Wisconsin people what an Illinois-let is. And they went back and they beat our record on the Wisconsin River. Not by much, but they beat it. And I called Bill and I said, we can't have 2 Illinois guys have our record for the Wisconsin River. And he says, exactly. So I said, I double dog dare you. He says, you don't need to, I want to do it. He says, get a sponsor. All right. So I go out, look around, find a sponsor. Potawatomi Bingo. And they're a great sponsor. Probably one of the best we've had. The fun part was when I called my support crew. Now remember, these guys lived in a van down by the river for a month. We were going 23 days, so you need a bunch of days to get up, 23 days down, a couple of days to get back. These guys lived in a van. And by the way, you think it's the roads are right next to the Mississippi. They kind of are until St. Louis. Then the great river roads separate, and south of St. Louis, it's very rural. So these guys would have to go to farmers and drive down dirt roads and levees and dikes just to get down, to walk down through the woods to feed us. And there were times that we could hear them crackling on the handheld radio, and we were past them by maybe half a mile, and then they would say, we see you, paddle back and get your stuff. We always told them, too late, we're going, man, you find us. So they would have to go back and get ahead and things. Anyway, it was fun calling the support crew. I love that phone call. I called Rod first, and I said, Rod, we're putting the band back together. And I heard him go, oh! And he goes, what? I said, Wisconsin River. He goes, how far is that? I said, 430 miles. He's doing the math. He goes, that's like 4 or 5 days maybe. I said, yeah. He goes, I'm in. Yes. Call it Mike. Same question. Mike, what? Putting the band back together. This is Vietnam flashbacks for these guys, how much time they spent in the van. It's nightmares. Same question, how far is that? 430 miles. That's like 5 days. I said, yeah. Is Rod in? I said, yeah. He goes, I'm in. Yes. So here we go. So 89 was Mississippi, 95 is us going after the Wisconsin River again. Third time. We know it like the back of our hands. We know where to really save time, we know where the tough parts are. Now we're running light, support crew, nothing in the canoe. Bill and I trained for like a year and a half, really got in good shape, because this was going to be a sprint. Mississippi, it's kind of like 3/4 speed all the time, but this is going to be flat out. This is going to be tough. Back to the Lake Air. To set, as you were, to really go fast in the canoe, you want dead flat water. This is called a flat water marathon canoe. It's not a whitewater canoe. It's a flat water marathon, built for no waves. So if you have no waves and wind, you can really fly in this thing. It's like sitting on a knife. And this is what we had for about the first 3 days. Whoops. Fact. By the way, there's the bathroom. Getting ready to be used. First 3 days, dead calm, and we were just pounding it. We're way ahead of schedule. Remember how hot it was? This was a quick portage. I think Grandmother Dam, way up north, south of Rhinelander. That side of my face was just baking. And, you know, instead of we learned on Mississippi, if you put suntan lotion on your hands and put it on your face, your hands are so greasy you can't hang on to that paddle for like all day. So we radioed ahead and I said, Mike, you gotta put some suntan lotion on me, I'm dying. Literally, we stood here for 60 seconds and Rob cranked off that picture. We ran around, put the canoe down, Bill's doing something, Mike just slathers it on, get in the water, go. Stevens Point, here's a reporter and a camera person from Wausau. This picture was taken about 50 hours into the race. We hadn't slept yet, paddling that hard. If you ever move a canoe where you can make a wake like that, you're moving. That is pulling on the paddle. Bill and I took our first sleep break at 62 hours. Anybody here stay awake more than 24? How about 48? How about 62? Let me tell you what sleep deprivation feels like at 62 hours. I want you to drink a 12-pack of beer, run around the block a bunch of times, get really winded. That's what it feels like. Can't read a map, can't tie your shoes, can't concentrate, your hearing starts to go, equilibrium's gone, and you're just cranking. Just cranking. This was a great picture. That's actually a good shot looking down. This was in Portage. One of our support group guys went up and took that picture, kind of showed the shape of the canoe. So, the previous time Bill and I did it, it was 6 days and 18 hours. Here's us at the finish. The biggest crowd we've ever had in our lives. This was like the Super Bowl. We pull in, we're like, oh my God, the Bullet came and see us finish. I'm amazing. I still love this picture, it makes me laugh. We came in at 4 days and 2 hours. 100 hours. Smashed it! And nobody has tried to beat that since. That was 1995, and I double dog dare anybody to try because you are going to need perfect weather like we had and perfect water conditions like we had. There's stronger paddlers than Bill and I out in the world, but it's a lot of stuff. The moon and the stars got to line up, and they line it up. So we got 6 hours of sleep in 4 days. That was it. Hour here, hour there. The rest was flat out as hard as you can paddle. Right after this, I read an article in the journal about adventure racing. I don't know if you've seen that before. And there was a gal in Washoe County that was looking for a potential teammate for a race coming up that was going to be in South Africa. 400-mile foot race. And I wasn't getting burned out in canoeing. I was in the best shape of my life that we had just smashed this record. I'm on a big high, and I thought, adventure racing, what's that? And basically, you go from A to B, and in between A and B, you have canoeing, whitewater rafting, rappelling, mountain climbing, horseback riding. You sleep on the trail. You eat on the trail. You stop when you want. First guy to the end wins. First team. 5-man teams, 1 woman minimum. So the gal that I was talking to was the gal on the team. She was a marathon runner and also a equestrian, so she was going to handle teaching everybody horse stuff. Well, I find out. By the way, when you go on the that race, and you before you can even get on the race, you stand in front of judges, and they will point to the saddle, and you have to saddle a horse properly. You have to clean up. Any horse people here? What's the frog? Don't know what the frog is. The frog is underneath the horseshoe. You got to know how to clean that out properly and maintain a horse. Before you go on that in front of the judges, you have to hook up and rappel off a little, 50-foot wall. You have to know these things before they'll even let you out on the course. So she was going to train, everybody to really be good on the horse section. I was on the team to really bone everybody up on water. I find out the other guys were Navy SEALs. Okay. So they came into town for a training session, and what I did was before they got there, I went up to Wausau, got a scoutmaster, and I said, would you guys like to put up a navigational course for us around Rib Mountain State Park for us to train on? And they loved that idea. I don't have any pictures of the guys because we couldn't take any. They were active Navy SEALs at the time. The race that we were going to compete in was called the Great Gaulois. Gaulois is a French cigarette company. These races were in the southern hemisphere. This race was going to be in Lesotho. That's a little tiny country in South Africa. A lot of mountains. So the Navy SEALs come in. We go up to Rib Mountain. We're standing in the parking lot right at the top. All the little scout kids are trying to take pictures. You can't take pictures. And the scoutmaster gave the head Navy SEAL a direction. I remember it was Dewey's. It was 9 degrees, 900 yards. We're standing in the parking lot. This is really my first time doing this. So all these SEALs are getting their gear on, little backpacks, and getting on my backpack, walking sticks, and getting all coordinated. All of a sudden, the Navy SEAL, the lead guy, goes, ready, go. He takes off on a full flat-out sprint, like a billy goat down that hill. They're all following him. Just kind of running down like run, Forrest, run through the trees. 34 hours later, we got done. Never stopped. Crisscross all around State Park, up and down the ski hill a bunch of times. Out and back, there's swamps. They're going through thigh-deep mud, big bogs. We get to the first grid coordinate. They tied a pink ribbon around a tree with a ziplock with the grid coordinates and directions to the next stop. So if you didn't find it, you didn't know where the next one was. So when we were getting close, we kind of fanned out into like a skirmish line. We're all looking around. It was at night, so our headlights on, and we'd find that little pink ribbon and get the next one. Go. So during that time, I was training myself. This is called the paddle portage in Madison. You paddle 3 miles, pick up the canoe, run 1.5 miles around the Capitol, and then you paddle 3 miles as fast as you can. This is my solo racing canoe. Same length as that one, but I picked it up and ran 1.5 miles by myself with that. So I was in pretty good shape. That's what you look like when you're in shape. I'm not like that anymore, but that's what it was. So, just before we were going to leave for South Africa, we had Carmex in Racine was our sponsor. And they backed out. They were going to have to spend $70,000. So I was all trained up, ready to go. SEALs were great. We were all just about ready to buy airplane tickets. And I didn't go. But it was fun training with these guys to see another level up, try a different sport, stay out of my Velvet Rut, try something new. When Osama bin Laden got whacked, they started talking about SEAL Team 6. Never even heard about it before. You heard about Navy SEALs. Well, guess what? Don Mann was the guy that was standing in the parking lot with me that said, go, and started running. So were the other guys. And right after bin Laden got whacked, I was watching a documentary on it, and they interviewed some retired SEALs. And there's Don Mann, the guy I trained with. So I called him, he sent me this book, and I looked it up in there. He was active Navy SEAL Team 6 when we were running up and down Rib Mountain. These guys, when they get a month off, they don't sit on a beach, they do adventure races in South Africa. That's what they do to just relax. So that's what we were planning on doing was do that. When you look at the Guinness Book of Records, well now they took the section away. When you used to look up canoe racing, there was only one race that they designated and that they put in the book was the Rhine River in Germany. And the reason was the guys who had the record was the British Royal Air Force canoe team. Where's Guinness published? Great Britain. The Rhine River is 720 miles long. So I'm right away, when I'm going to Guinness, it would look Mississippi River, wait a minute, 720. Mississippi's 3 times longer. And I have a certificate, and I'm not in the book. That really chapped me. So I remember I called Bill one day, and I said, you know, Bill, I said, we should go after that Rhine River. Again, I can't tell you what he said, but I double-dog dared him anyway. And he threw out the, if you can get a sponsor, I'll do it. So in 2007, we went across the pond and go after the Rhine River World Record.